Well, good afternoon, Chairwoman Rogers and Mr. Soto. Thanks for holding this session today for members. Throughout the country, neighborhoods have been experiencing an unprecedented homelessness crisis. In Oregon, this crisis has persisted at a level far outpacing other states. There isn't a single person, I believe, who doesn't want to fix the problem, who doesn't want to help our homeless neighbors find stability. But the approach has been too narrow, hyper-fixated on housing. Housing, undeniably, is the biggest factor to consider when examining the issue, but it's not the only one. If someone you know is trapped in the spiraling cycle of dual diagnosis condition, being addicted to a drug, while also fighting a mental health disorder, and that person is going without care, how could you expect them to transition into sustained and stable housing? Our homeless community is going without access to real and direct health care. Yet we maintain an expectation that if you just build the housing, their very real health problems, which often are the causes for their homelessness, will no longer be an issue affecting their living situation. Providing health care to this vulnerable community is the missing piece in fixing this crisis. Doing so isn't going to solve the issue by itself, but you cannot end this crisis without it. However, we cannot do this within a system that is not designed for the homeless, a system which currently requires homeless individuals to travel miles from where they live, risking their property being stolen to receive care at a brick-and-mortar clinic. And if they have the money for a bus ride, or even if they can walk, and oftentimes our veterans are in that category. That is why I, alongside Congresswoman Summer Lee, have introduced the Direct Care for the Homeless Act. This necessary legislation would provide accessible and direct health care to our homeless neighbors right where they live, helping them transition off the streets. It does so by creating a 4-year pilot program, expanding the homeless access to street medicine providers. Street medicine providers feel the need for care by going directly to the patients, providing care on the streets, in encampments, and any place a homeless patient lives. This direct approach streamlines access to dual diagnosis care, primary care, and any other untreated health care need which is keeping a person trapped on the streets. Our pilot program will be available for credentialed street medicine providers who work in cities or counties experiencing the homelessness crisis at serious levels. It will establish a reimbursement process for these providers, so it's practical for the doctors who participate. But it explicitly prohibits reimbursements for supervised consumption of Schedule I drugs, fentanyl, cocaine, and meth. The program would also grow the needed workforce to sustain an effective street medicine approach. Street medicine providers will be eligible for the Public Health Loan Repayment Program. Medical students and residents who serve in the program focused at all on street medicine will be eligible for a pause on both their student loan payments and accrued interest. And perhaps most importantly, community service officers employed by local law enforcement will be eligible for the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. I want to place a particular emphasis on this provision. In every city and county dealing with the homelessness crisis, cops are stretched thin, responding to calls about a homeless person sleeping outside of an encampment in front row or a local business. It shouldn't be police officers dealing with these calls. Their work hours need to be reserved for immediate life-threatening emergencies. That's why I'm proud to have the support of law enforcement in putting this bill forward. An influx of community service officers will free up the lives of cops and notably improve conditions for both the homeless and their neighbors. Our bill also improves conditions in homeless shelters by requiring the menstrual products be available, and that basic security cameras, which can be bought oftentimes on Amazon for a very low cost, will be placed in these non-invasive areas of the shelter. In providing health care to help people transition off the streets, we do need to make sure that the temporary housing options are real options. Too often, women will opt to live out of their car instead of staying in a shelter because of how dangerous some shelters can be. This results in piled-up parking and trespassing tickets, which create both insurmountable debt and criminal record, which makes it near impossible to find a job. The crisis can and must be fixed. No person often chooses to be homeless. The stigmas, years of inaction, narrow approaches to helping this community have done nothing to improve these conditions. Please, let's stop this pattern of failure. Thank you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions, but I do thank the committee for this testimony, and I look forward to working with the committee and the chairwoman and the acting chairman to move this further down the road on a bipartisan level.